The wagon looked abandoned, half swallowed by the desert. Its wheels were sun-cracked and crooked, leaning like an old drunk caught mid-stumble. Leather straps, frayed and sun-baked, hung loose around the rear axle. And tied to its spine, barefoot and bleeding, stood a girl. She wasn't crying. That was the first thing Boone Thatcher noticed as he reined in his horse. The girl couldn't have been older than 28, had blood streaking down her shin and wind-whipped hair matted across her face. But her eyes, even through the mess, didn't plead. They challenged. Her stare held the kind of defiance that only came from someone who'd already been broken and stitched herself back up with stubborn thread. Boone didn't speak. Desert wind did enough whispering for both of them. A crow perched on the wagon beside her, black and silent like it was waiting for something to die. The girl's chest rose and fell too shallowly, her sundress clinging like a second skin, denim worn thin, and lace unraveling at the seams. Her wrists were raw from the straps. One knee buckled. Boone dismounted in one slow motion. He didn't rush. In the silence of the desert, speed could be mistaken for threat. His boots crunched dry stone, and his horse huffed behind him but didn't move. "Don't," the girl said, voice hoarse. "Don't come near me." He stopped 6 feet from her, tipped his hat back just enough for his face to show. "Not looking to hurt you," he said, gravel in his tone. "You tied yourself up out here." Her mouth twitched like it wanted to smirk, but forgot how. "Get lost, cowboy." He took a slow step forward. "Ain't leaving you here to rot. You don't even know who I am." He glanced at her wrists, the bruising on her collarbone. "Don't have to." She didn't answer, but her weight gave way. Boone caught her before she hit the ground, arms wrapping instinctively around her sun-warmed body. She didn't fight, not really. Just tensed. He smelled blood, sweat, and something else, dusty lavender and iron. Her hands clenched briefly in his shirt, then released. A shiver rattled her spine. "I got you," he murmured. She didn't respond. The ride back to his ranch took nearly 2 hours. Boone cradled her in the saddle, one arm across her ribs, the reins held loose in the other. The sun dropped slowly behind jagged cliffs, casting their shadows long and orange across the canyon. She drifted in and out, sometimes murmuring names, sometimes nothing. Her head rested against his chest, breath shallow and rhythmic. She didn't ask where they were going. He didn't tell. His land lay tucked between red rock ridges and a dry creek that hadn't run in 4 years. The house was squat and silent, built by his grandfather when the town was still a promise. Boone rode straight to the porch, dismounted, and carried her inside. She stirred when he laid her on his bed, his only bed, beneath a faded quilt his mother once made. "Where?" she rasped. "Safe." She blinked, then winced as her body caught up to consciousness. "Don't leave me here." Boone sat beside her. "Ain't gonna." Her eyes searched his face like she was memorizing it. Then she closed them. He pulled a chair near the bed and sat with his elbows on his knees, watching the flicker of the oil lamp dance across her bruises. The silence in the house settled around them, not heavy, just present. Boone didn't try to fill it. She slept without rest, flinching at ghosts he couldn't see. Boone watched the rise and fall of her breath, and waited. At dawn she woke. Her first movement was defensive, arms jerking up, eyes wild. "Still here," Boone said quietly. She calmed slowly, like an animal not yet convinced the trap was gone. He stood and brought her a tin cup of water. She stared at it, then at him. "Drink it or throw it at me," he said. "Your call." She drank. Her voice was steadier now. "You always pick up strangers." Boone shrugged. "You always tie yourself to wagons." She looked away, jaw clenched. He noticed her hands again, blistered palms, scabbed knuckles. Someone had worked her hard, then left her harder. He didn't ask questions. The silence between them said enough. "You got a name?" he asked finally. "Not one you need." Boone nodded once. "Fair." She leaned back into the pillow, gaze fixed on the wooden beams above. Her eyes were sharp, wounded but not weak. "You planning to turn me in?" she asked after a while. "To who?" She gave a dry laugh. "Exactly." Boone walked to the window. The sky was softening with morning, streaks of peach and dusty gold brushing the horizon. "You hungry?" She hesitated, then nodded. He cooked quietly, bacon, beans, eggs. She watched him the whole time, like she was waiting for the other boot to drop. When he handed her a plate, their fingers brushed. She didn't flinch this time. They ate in silence, but it was a different silence now. Less brittle, more tired. You gonna tell me who did that to you? He asked finally. She shook her head. Not yet. Boone nodded. Didn't press. Then you can rest here. Long as you need. She looked at him for a long moment. You don't even know me. I don't need to, he said again. A flicker, something close to disbelief, crossed her face. Later, when the sun rose full and the house warmed, Boone stepped outside to chop wood. He needed something to do with his hands. Inside, she watched him from the window, fingers tracing the rim of the tin cup. The crow had returned. It sat on the wagon's broken axle, staring toward the house like it remembered something Boone had forgotten. He caught its shadow stretching across the doorframe and narrowed his eyes. The desert didn't give things back without a cost. But for the first time in a long time, Boone felt like maybe, just maybe, something worth keeping had been left behind. The girl stayed. Not out of trust, at least not at first, but because her legs still buckled when she tried the front steps, and Boone never asked where she came from. He didn't offer her questions, and she didn't offer him lies. The arrangement sat quiet between them like a loaded pistol on a kitchen table, visible, acknowledged, untouched. She slept in his bed. Boone moved his blanket to the floor beside the hearth. Most nights, he didn't sleep much. The fire crackled low, and her breathing, when it was even, was the only other sound in the house. On the nights she cried out in her sleep, he didn't go to her. But he didn't turn away either. In daylight, she cleaned wounds he couldn't see. Small things. She boiled water for coffee, mended a torn shirt of his without asking. Boone noticed but didn't say anything. Gratitude, like grief, wasn't something he'd ever been good at naming. A week passed in desert time, sunlight, wind, dry ground, and the aching silence of people learning how not to be afraid of one another. He found her one afternoon standing near the corral, barefoot in the dust, watching his mare with something tender behind her eyes. Her name's Mercy, he said. The girl nodded. She don't spook easy. Boone smiled faintly. Neither do you. She didn't return the smile, but she didn't walk away either. Later, over supper, she broke a silence that had stretched too long. My brother left me there, she said. Boone set down his fork. Traded me, she continued, voice steady but scraped raw, for a horse and 2 bottles of rye. Boone didn't ask if she meant real family, or just the kind that pretends to be. He simply said, You're not property. She stared at the table, lips pressed tight. Town don't see it that way. Word gets out I'm here, someone'll come. Let 'em, Boone said. They won't leave happy. That night, she brought a second blanket to the fire and sat beside him without a word. He didn't look at her, but he could feel her breathing. Close, unflinching. By the 3rd week, the wind shifted. Boone had gone to town, saddlebags light with coin and heavy with suspicion. Folks stared harder than usual. He kept his answers short and his rifle slung loose. The man behind the counter at the general store raised an eyebrow. Thatcher, heard you got company. Boone said nothing. Fella said you picked up a Caldwell girl. Boone's eyes lifted. Did I? They want her back. She's not theirs. The storekeeper leaned in. That girl's trouble, son. Boone took his supplies and left without paying the comment any mind. When he returned, she was on the porch, arms crossed, eyes scanning the canyon's edge. Someone was here, she said. Didn't knock. Boone's jaw tightened. How many tracks? 2 horses. Deep. He nodded once. It'll be more next time. They didn't speak of it again, but Boone began leaving the rifle within reach at night. She noticed. Said nothing. 2 days later, they came. 3 riders. Dust trailing behind them like bad history. Boone saw them crest the ridge just before sundown. The girl was chopping carrots. He didn't say anything, just took the knife gently from her hand and walked out the door. She followed anyway. The riders slowed as they neared, smirks already carved into their faces. Well, hell, the lead one said, sliding down from his saddle. Ain't that sweet? Boone Thatcher and his little stray. The girl went still beside Boone. Her breath caught, then steadied. She ain't yours, Boone said. The man laughed. She was paid for. Then someone overpaid. A second man spat. You planning to fight 3 of us, Thatcher? Boone stepped forward. If I have to. The third man, a younger one twitchy, rested a hand on his holster. The sun caught the metal just right. She's property, the leader sneered. You think your conscience makes that go away? Boone's voice was low. She's not going with you. Something in the man's expression turned mean. Then maybe we take her over your corpse. Behind Boone, there was a click. The girl stood on the porch with Boone's rifle steady in her arms. Her stance wasn't perfect, but her grip was. And her eyes, those wild, stubborn eyes, didn't waver. "Drop it," she said. The twitchy one froze. "I swear to God," she said louder now, "I'll paint this desert with your blood." The wind hushed. The world narrowed. The lead rider glanced at Boone. "You letting her speak for you now?" Boone didn't move. "She don't need me to." A long silence passed. Then the leader chuckled bitterly. "You two deserve each other," he muttered, turning his horse. "A couple of broken dogs guarding a bone." The others followed. Dust rose behind them, then vanished. Boone turned to her slowly. The rifle lowered inch by inch. "You ever shot one of those?" he asked. She exhaled. "I was hoping I wouldn't have to." He reached out and took the rifle from her hands, not roughly, not gently. Just steady. Inside, the fire was low again. Boone added wood, watched the sparks rise. She sat beside him on the floor, knees drawn up, shoulders shaking, but eyes dry. He didn't ask if she was okay. She didn't say thank you. But when he offered his hand, she took it. The quiet that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was earned. And for the first time since he'd found her tied to that wagon, Boone let himself believe maybe this wasn't just saving a stranger. Maybe she was saving him, too.